Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to this very special Break in the Clouds report with Penny Kelly. You can find her amazing work here at consciousnessonfire.com, and you can also find her tonight on simulcast. I hope that's working. Yes, it is. There you go. On Penny Kelly here on YouTube. Penny, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm good. I'm good. I hope you are too.
I'm doing well. I have a little bit of a torticolis in French. How do you say that? You know, when you have trouble going one way, it's like a little cramp.
Yeah, you're out of alignment. Your neck
Yeah,
is
yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Could be the humidity. It's sweltering here in the last couple of days. I haven't been sleeping much. And plus, I've been very busy trying to rebuild stuff in the background. You know, a lot of things have been taken away, as you know. But we're not allowed to talk about the things that have been taken away because that's also a violation of, you know.
We don't need them.
We don't need them. No.
Yeah.
Well, somewhat.
Yeah.
Betty, I'm so glad to have you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. As we just said in the interview, for the first time here, Penny and I are trying to simulcast to both our channels. So if you're new to Penny Kelly and you're watching me here on Beyond Mystic, please do go over to Penny Kelly here on our YouTube channel and find out all of the amazing work she puts out there, including the snippets of her tea and consciousness, live streams, and much, much more, interviews as well. And of course, if you're watching on Penny Kelly, come on over here to Beyond Mystic 3. This is my third backup channel initiative here on YouTube. And of course, we have a lot of amazing, similar, and interesting content for you guys. Penny, we are today, July 19th. There's a lot coming up. There's a lot of people talking about the end of the month also being special with the new moon on the 28th, and also this triple conjunction for July 31st to August 1st, which seems to be aligning with a lot of other people out there with intel as possible dates here for tower card moments, if we want to put it that way. I know you're deep into creating the next look-see here. What can you share this evening with your last look-see?
Okay, couple things. Overall, the thing that really bothered me about this look-see, the one that I just put out, was this. I kept tuning into the people of the world, the people of the Western world. And there's this la da 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 da, you know, just drifting forward. And that really, I kept thinking, are you guys not watching? Are you not paying attention? And there was just this sense of people either in a shock or they have no idea how to respond. Probably that's most of it right there. What do we do? That kind of thing. But I'm hoping to stay away from all the political stuff tonight, maybe a little bit, even though the look-see focused on what's happening in the various countries. I was mostly focused on that during the look-see. So I'll share a couple of things. And I didn't say hardly anything about the finance stuff in this look-see. But then because there's so much happening, I was thinking about that. I'll share something that happened a couple days ago. And I'm trying to, like, everybody's looking at these dates, and I'm trying to like spread it out and say, okay, first, second, third, fourth, instead of just saying, oh, something happens over here. And the rest of it is all mystery, black box kind of thing. So I got a few details of that, but I'm not done with that. But I'll share where I'm at. So.
Okay. Well, the microphone is yours. Let's get started. I have a few news items also that maybe will tie into some of your look-sees, so I'll share those on the screen while you're talking, and then we'll get into some questions. I know for tonight, too, there's two other topics on top of the look-see. We want to look at the food situation. There's more development on some previous episodes you and I have done on that topic. And also perhaps what could be happening behind the scenes at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and how that also relates to big tower card moments here moving forward. So guys, big show here tonight. Let's start with the look-see. Penny, the microphone is yours.
Okay, so the look-see, this was for July 15th. So it's just been out for a little bit. But the couple of things that I really wanted to point out, that this number 3 on the look-see, the cost of gas just keeps going up. And in spite of a federal gas tax holiday, and that tax holiday, that federal gas tax is what supplies money to the repair and maintenance of roads. And the result is that there are billion-dollar losses in that road repair fund, bridges as well. And even though, you know, we have so many roads in the U.S. that are terrible, they're gonna short the fund now, and it's gonna get worse. So just want to mention that the tax holiday is designed literally to slow road repair and make travel a little harder for people. They're trying to shut down travel in a way that's not as obvious as just saying, stay home, you're locked down. They're going at it from a different angle. So, and that's not really evident yet, but it will become clear as the recession, literally the recession. We are now officially in recession, even though it hasn't been declared. So 2 months worth of GDP going down is officially recession. And it becomes almost impossible to replace those road repair funds or to catch up with road repair. And as I was looking down the future a little bit, there were just a lot of roads that you just couldn't travel on as we get into next year because we're bankrupt. So that was the first thing. The second thing I want to remind people, this number 5, stock up on your animal feed, you know, for your dog, your cat, your birds, your chickens, whatever you've got, because it really is difficult to almost impossible to get that once we get into the middle of winter. So that's, and that kind of is in line with the food thing, but we'll come back to that. I saw these 2 deaths of key leaders, one by assassin, the other by unknown forces.
Is one of them Shinzo Abe, or are you talking post Shinzo Abe?
I'm not sure. I saw the 2, and I thought, so it said 2 more deaths. And about 2 or 3, maybe 4 days later, because I started this at the beginning of July, so it could be Shinzo Abe. But that, you know, the way it was worded, I thought, okay, 2 more by assassin and unknown forces. So
both are by assassin, or one is by assassin?
One is by assassin, and the other was unknown forces. And I thought it was somebody.
Could this be like a political death in the sense of Draghi here leaving the post, or are you talking about an actual physical leaving the Earth plane? What's your gut feeling?
I thought it was actually leaving the Earth plane. At one point, I thought, well, maybe this is Boris Johnson. Is it Johnson or Johnston?
Yeah.
Because he's resigning. But these were deaths, and that did not include him. And so I thought, okay, so I just watch for that. Okay. Then the next one kind of follows on what I said at the beginning. The people of the U.S. and the entire Western world continue to pretend that their country has not been taken over and they are not a captive population. And I think that's it's a hard thing to contemplate. So they continue to play along with the medical drama. Can we say medical drama?
Sure. Sure. These days, I don't know what I can say. I don't even know if I can say people's names anymore, apparently.
Okay.
There's persona non gratas here. We're not even allowed to mention anymore.
I know. It's like, okay, it's trying to walk across quicksand.
Right.
So
I have long legs, though, so maybe that'll help a little bit. I'm just kidding. Keep going.
So people are continuing to play along with that drama and the election drama because it allows them to keep the charade going and to avoid facing the truth. And whoops, hang on a second here. Forgot to move my phone. So that, I think, is going to come to a hard stop here. And what I see is a lot of people waking up all at once. It's been dribbling for, a little bit, a few more every week. And I've been really celebrating that. But it looks like by the time we get to the end of August, September, that's like, whoa, people are really, really struggling. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to share was the cabal. This number 12 on the look-see. The cabal is desperate to keep the war in Ukraine going for two reasons. And it looked like Putin was almost done. He's done with what he set out to do, which was to guarantee that he's got access to the Mediterranean, or to the Black Sea, to the Mediterranean via the Black Sea. And so he was getting ready to shut down the war. And then the cabal has come up with something. No, we're going to keep this going. And it looks like they were planning a false flag. So let me read this, the whole thing. One reason the cabal wants to keep the war going is they need the money. They're selling guns and weaponry and stuff. The second thing is that they were planning to step in and do the rebuilding and the reconstruction. And that, right after I wrote this and published this, I saw this one little piece of news somewhere said, big executives are traveling to Ukraine, planning to get in on the rebuild. And I thought, oh, there it is right there. Wow. So that would get them, if they're in on the rebuild and the reconstruction, they get more money. But even more importantly, they were planning then to control Ukraine from this nice, actually to control the whole world from this nice, new, extremely modern, updated location. And Ukraine has always been known as the heart of the world for whatever reason. And whoever owned, ran, controlled Ukraine had control of the world. That's something from way back, from like decades and maybe a couple of 100 years ago. So anyway, to accomplish this plan, it looks like it involves announcing that the cabal is sending more troops, weapons, and equipment, even though the war is mostly already over and Russia has won. And they do not want they don't want to announce that. So it looked like they were planning to blow something up in Washington, D.C. And I thought, is that the White House or the Washington Monument? It did not. It looked like something important, or maybe used to be important. And then they're going to claim the Russians did it, of course, which would generate anger against Russia and allow them to have an excuse to send troops into Ukraine.
Okay, Jenny, sorry. Penny, hold on a little bit. You're repeating a lot of those bad words here on the show. And of course, everything you're talking about has been debunked as, tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. I think we understand where you're going, but watch maybe some of those key words. The bad guys, the bad guys starting with the C, and then the big one starting with R, and then the other one starting with U. Too much of that, it creates a cloud of words here that might get us into trouble.
Okay, well, we don't want any more trouble,
Well, let's just talk about the situation as it's happening. You and I talked about this last month, where in your forecast, you were thinking that could be as early as July, maybe into August, that whole situation would be over. And funnily enough, Mr. P here was just traveling in the last couple of days here to Iran to ostensibly make a deal here after Gazprom just declared force majeure. So this is creating a huge havoc on the energy systems of Europe. And so we're getting to that critical point here where I think you were forecasting it, that at some point somebody has to capitulate here and say, okay.
Right.
we'll pay the price, Mr. P. You win. And they're delaying that announcement, and they're trying to do everything possible. Now, you mentioned the hard stop. Let me just go back on this here before you finish your list. Yeah. The hard stop you were seeing, what was the date of that? Is that end of July, or is that somewhere in August, September? Or does hard stop start at the end of July and then we feel it August, September saying, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, it really was at somewhere in the middle of August, the hard stop. Um, so that's, um, it looked like there were several things, several factors, the Fed, the war, the war, let's just call it the war.
Yeah.
Okay. And that whole thing, um, that, um, that I would call can we talk about Europe? Can we say,
Yeah.
okay. Um, so that whole European thing, they hit the wall first.
Hmm.
That actually, so let's say Germany, what I said here was Germany capitulates first. Um, and it was like either you do something or we're going to do something. This was the people of Germany talking. Either you do something or we're going to do something. And
Right.
so they went to they said, okay, we'll buy your gas. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. I dreamt about this last month, and I mentioned it in the show. I forget which one it was. It could have been with you during our last look-see, where I had dreamt this. I woke up in the morning and I saw that Germany had capitulated and basically decided to go its own way. And this was
Oh,
the domino effect, probably for the dissolution of the Eurozone. Now, since then, we've seen Mario
oh,
Draghi leave under pressure. They're trying to introduce the big U inside the Eurozone now, and a couple of other candidates as well to try to reinforce, as if they know maybe a player is leaving and they're trying to keep the stability there. That's really interesting. I wanted to bring up something
I
here
did see that attempted introduction of the big U.
Mhm.
So, but I don't remember you talking about that dream. So,
Okay,
um,
it might have been a different show. But what's interesting, in another conversation, somebody was talking to me about this word here, interregnum, a
mm,
period when normal government is suspended, especially between successive reigns or regimes, but also maybe before because of war, collapse,
yeah,
calamity, natural disasters. At any rate, we seem to be entering that period now. A lot of people are picking up on that too, from the remote viewers to the tyros, the psychics, and webbot data also probably from way
okay.
past when some of those
Well,
temporal markers are hitting now. So that's why I was asking you when you saw that hard stop. And this was that moment where we, the people who watch these shows for the last number of years, finally look out on the street and we see all our neighbors with their jaw hanging out on the floor for a couple of hours, not moving, right?
yeah,
So we're coming to that point.
that's
Wow.
quite the visual there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then suddenly, that guy on the street says, "Hey, that guy who bought silver? Finally, he's not so crazy after all."
No, he's not.
We're gonna get to those conversations in a bit. Okay,
Yeah.
you're at number 12, number 13. What else do you have on the look see?
Yeah. Well,
Before
the next one was really just going to be the last one. It was going to be not sure we can talk about this now. The destruction of the U.S. is proceeding according to plan. For those who did not know, the plan was to reduce the U.S. to third world status.
Mhm.
Uh, and those who have never visited a third world country, for those who have never visited a third world country, you should know we're already there in the big cities. Trash is everywhere. Homeless are everywhere. Buildings are looking more and more unkempt. Roads are less and less taken care of. Inflation is rampant. Shelves are mostly empty. People are hungry. The middle class is gone. 90% of the people live in poverty. Elections are questionable and censorship is everywhere. Witness tonight. So that destruction has succeeded. It would be very difficult at this point. I'll probably take a decade to try to turn the ship at this point in time. There's too much destruction at every level that has gone on. And we're about to hit the wall. So after the look-see was out, I was thinking about something I saw back in January, and you'll remember this. It was about the financial system, and it went. This is kind of a quote. or paraphrase. I was watching the financial system, and it looked like a dying dinosaur. It went into a stall at the end of January, dropped to its knees the first part of February, and then to its belly in the last part of February. It keeled over in March. There were convulsions in April. It died in May. And I was thinking about that. It died in May, and I heard a voice in my head say, the funeral was in September, and it was buried in October. And I thought, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So I think for those who haven't recognized the trajectory we're on with the financial system, they're going to get it in September, and a whole lot of stuff is going to hit in September, October, November. So then I was trying to untangle, like what I was saying earlier. Well, by this date, I had seen, some really hard stuff happening October 16th. It was just like, oh, wow, that's there we go. There's the end. But when I was recording or talking on my own channel, I said September 16th. So then I stopped for a minute. I realized that I meant to say October, but September came out, and I thought, I wonder if it's really September, or if there's something more happening in September. So then I was trying to look at what's happening, week by week to get to September 16th or October 16th. And so this is what I've got so far. The first half of August, interest rates have gone up, and so does inflation, drastically up. In the second half of August, it looks like the whole mortgage, mortgage market just stops. Just boom, stops. Nobody's getting a mortgage. Nobody's buying houses. Nobody's got their house for sale and selling.
What's that month for the mortgage, for the real estate?
Second half of August.
Wow.
And the dollar confidence falls. I mean, it's already falling, but it's falling some more. And then the first half of September, I didn't get anything for that. But the second half of September, the Fed raises rates again, a lot. And the Chicago Mercantile Exchange shuts down in chaos. So that, so I want to say some more about that in just a minute. So then the first half of October, food factories are shutting down due to a number of things: poor harvest, no harvest, failure to secure crops for processing. So factories just start, shutting down. And the second half of October, banks shut down to head off a panic, or they have what I might call like a holiday. Is that a nice word? Can we say that? So that's as far as I've gone. It looked like in November there were difficulties with electricity, and there were big difficulties with water in the Southwest, water and electricity. And that just gets worse over the winter. But that's as far as I've gone. So I want to go back to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Am I going too fast?
No, perfect. We're all riveted. I'm taking a few notes here because I'll come back to some of the questions, because this is also aligning with some other reports. As you were talking about the food processing plants, and what you're describing is happening now. California farmland rapidly turns to dust amid water crisis. So as we are not producing, again, everything else that happens down the chain, all the way to delivery to your home, also does not happen. But what Penny is saying is, in a lot of cases, the damage has already been done. We just haven't seen the consequences to your doorstep yet. So that's the timing you're discussing here between the hard stop and the realization that a lot of things are actually broken and maybe broken beyond repair. Now, there's a lot of good things and all that too. Jenny, Opinion and I have talked about this last time, that this is going to spark innovation for humans and a lot of finding new ways to do things, and that's absolutely exciting. So please don't be afraid here. We're not fear-mongering. We're just looking at the timelines here to see how we navigate all of this as best possible. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and I'm always very interested in how things unfold. You know, what happened? What happened? Why, you know, what made that? Who brought that about? Et cetera, et cetera. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, if you're not a farmer, you probably wouldn't give a darn about this. But if you do pay attention to that, it's called the CME, and that's not coronal mass ejection. It's Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So the exchange is where a whole bunch of paper contracts are put together and set up and assigned, agreed upon, and they're always working a year ahead. Farmers work a year ahead. Maybe you've heard me say, when I'm growing food this year, it's for next year. Okay. So so all that paper stuff typically results in, at some point, somebody's got to deliver the goods. Okay. And 1 or 2% of all those thousands, tens of thousands of paper contracts actually get physical delivery at given times. 1 to 2%. Usually it's 1%. The most it's ever been for physical delivery is 2%. Okay. So, and this comes from, and this, you go to this video by David Dubine. He does an absolutely fabulous job. He's responding to somebody, maybe at the CME, but he's the guy who lays this all out. And I heard it was like, oh my God. So, so 15% of those contracts have been promised physical delivery in this year. 15%. The most it's ever been is 2.
2. Wow.
So, so here's the problem. There ain't no way that there, excuse my hillbilly language, there's no way that they're going to be able to deliver on 15% of those contracts for a whole bunch of reasons. One is that there's no crop. And I'm gonna segue just a little bit here. Russia, or not Russia, another country over in the east. Let's not.
Isn't this frustrating? I know.
Yeah. So there's another country that's been buying a whole bunch of farmland.
Right.
240,000 acres of prime farmland. Okay.
Here in the USA, yes.
In the US.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question, I don't have an answer. I'm just posing the question. Last year, farmers were told, plow that crop under, don't harvest that. If you harvest that and try to bring it to market, you will have to take 30% of what you normally get in terms of crop, or in terms of payment. Okay. Was that an attempt on the part of the U.S. to counter the fact that the Big C owns 240,000 acres of prime cropland, and they did not want to be feeding the Big C? So I don't know, but that stands as, why would the government do that? They paid farmers to not harvest their crop. So,
well, in the same vein of questions, why would the pretendency also sell strategic petroleum reserves to the Big C when we're having shortages and hyperinflation here in our own energy crisis in North America? So again, why would they do that, Jeannie?
I can't imagine.
Right.
So as a result of what didn't happen last year, crops didn't come to the, they didn't get harvested and come into the storage units. Those storage units did not get refilled. Okay. That's a problem. So now this year, Kansas wheat, they're reporting they're going to have 0% of their crop. because of the drought.
Wow.
There is no wheat. And this is Western Kansas. Some farmers are saying we'll get 20 to 30 bushels per acre. The normal is 50 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 50 to 60 bushels per acre, and we're going to settle for maybe 15 even, or 20. And then the result of that is that there's not going to be enough. And that's, that what you end up with also. There weren't enough, David Dubine said, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides were not enough to cover the crops that were planted that did get fertilizer. So all those weeds got fertilized. And then no pesticide or herbicide to spray with, which is good and bad if you're a farmer. Right. I happen to be organic. I'm like, you shouldn't be spraying that in the first place. But, that's another conversation. And so the September 16th is the delivery date for these contracts. And what happens when you don't deliver, when a farmer doesn't deliver, he gets fined by the day until he does, until he's bankrupt or goes out of business. Okay, so the difficulty that we're facing is that when there's no delivery of crop, factories can't start making bread. They can't start making, there's, what did he say, 182 different corn products. I knew of 3, corn starch, corn filler, and high fructose corn syrup. Maybe corn chips.
Yeah.
But 182 different products come from corn alone. And I don't know how many come from wheat, quite a bit.
You were just mentioning there, the factories won't be making bread. Well, my friend Jason Four, who was on the show the last time you were on with Woo Dude, he was dreaming about buying a whole other freezer just to put bread in there. Yeah, a lot of people on the show were saying you should learn how to make bread also. It'd probably save you a little bit of space here and headache. But yeah, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. So what we have are storage facilities that have not been refilled. So now there's going to be huge competition for what's in them. And so what sometimes happens, and everybody who's a farmer knows this, sometimes you can add, if you can add some other stuff. Okay. That's not good. If your crop is full of weeds, and you go to roast that crop, you're liable to start a fire because corn has a certain temperature, roasting temperature, or drying out temperature, and the other stuff may have a much lower kindling temperature, and the whole thing goes up in flames. That's a problem. That's only one problem. I think another thing that occurs is that if they deliver a less than desirable crop, and it's then they add filler at that level. Now the maximum percentage is 28% other stuff. And you can't have more than 28% or less than, you can't have more than 28% extra goodies in your crop. Okay.
Can I just make a quick intersection here? You're talking about that in the crops, but there's already businesses that are doing that, including Subway. They just a judge just ruled here that this lawsuit of over 100, I think it's a class action lawsuit here, can go forward because Subway is being sued here for claiming tuna sandwich contain other. Well, anyways, there's a whole bunch of other stuff except tuna in the tuna sandwich at Subway.
I know.
Can you imagine? Wow.
If you've ever worked in a food processing factory, which I have, that's you make product with whatever you've got. And
a lot of it is soy here. They're adding soy and other
soy is
stuff.
Not
horrible. It's horrible.
So, so once you get over 28% extra stuff, you start measuring how that product interacts with the yeast and the salt and the heat and the dynamics that go on in, let's say, bread, for instance. And so you affect the taste, the texture, you affect the nutrition level as well. You don't, and we cannot afford to lose any more nutrition. You know, back when I was when I was back at home, if you got $2 for a bushel of wheat or corn, you were really doing well. Soybeans, I can't remember. I never knew what soybeans were, but now some of these things are $50 a bushel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's going to push up the price of food beyond to ridiculous levels.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming into a period of time when I think so let me add a couple of other factors here. So the clearinghouses that manage these contracts at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they are arms or branches of banks. Okay. So if they can't get delivery and things start shutting down left and right because everything is going bankrupt.
Cascading effect of unintended consequences.
Yeah, right. So I think that has is a factor at play in those banks suddenly saying, well, we just need to shut down for a couple of days here. And the world kind of comes to a stop financially. And that may take until the middle of October, or, you know, I had October 16th, but I said September 16th in my live thing. So I think we're headed to, I think in the attempt to see, you know, what's actually bringing all this together to make this date seem like a big deal. I think we're seeing at least one piece of it. It's the food shortage. It's the fact that we aren't growing anything. It's the drought in the entire breadbasket of America. And that's when you look at the severity of that drought. And today, you know, one of the transformers blew up on the Hoover Dam. You know, they had just a big mess out there. It's like, oh my God. So we have
But don't worry, the officials say there's no risks of electrical shortages or electricity storage. So of course there's no risk of contagion. We've been told nothing to worry here, folks. Move along.
Yeah. And I have to say that dam is about 100 years old. I'm sure that they've kept it well maintained and up to date, etc. But it just seems like there's an awful lot of stuff that's not working, just plain not working. And the whole green agenda, the green, you know, wind and solar. Can we talk about wind and solar?
Sure.
That is not going to happen. It's not sustainable. And it isn't reliable, but it isn't sustainable because when you go to trash those solar panels, which are only good for 20 years, maybe, then they're considered hazardous waste. What do you do with them? We got another nuclear waste problem coming from the solar panels. So we are,
let me just add to the drought here too. I've been following these guys who do these videos on YouTube. I think they were originally a fishing company or outdoor, Sin City Outdoors. So let's give them a plug. Wow. They do great videos, but they've been documenting Lake Mead here over the last couple of weeks and months, and it's just absolutely horrible. Where there's almost no water left there, and so I was wondering how that continues to, like, why no mainstream media is talking about this yet. A lot of the people in that area need this water for drinking water. So it's really interesting, let alone food supply, agriculture. So there's some weird stuff happening there. Somebody was asking, let me just go to the question here, Penny, before we go too far. Smiling Eyes, is there a date for the food shortages to end? Like, have you looked far enough to see, okay, how we're going to deal with this as humans? Because here's the thing, there's still a lot of people, probably not watching the show, but in the political world, completely ignoring the situation. And the longer they ignore the situations like these droughts and all that, the longer it's going to take to actually come together and put solutions to the problem. So this is the problem that is created for us not being able to talk about the problem. So again, the censorship doesn't help here at all in this situation, but the ignorance of these facts at the political level, whether it's contrite or made in purpose or whatnot, is still causing or exacerbating the length of time it will take us to repair those problems. So
that's right.
Going back to Smiling Eyes here, how long do you see that lasting, these shortages? Let's start here with North America. I know the whole situation around the world will be different everywhere you are, but
this is true. So it ends individuals, if for individuals. When each individual decides to take responsibility for feeding themselves instead of letting somebody else do that, that's the beginning. From the point that you plant a seed, let's say corn, okay? You need somewhere, depending on the species of corn or the how it's been hybridized or etc. You're going to need between 70 and 80, maybe even 90 if it's Silver Queen corn, days to come to where it's ready to eat. So you need at least 3 months worth of food on hand. 6 months would be better, but that 3 months is going to feed you while you're waiting for your crop to come in. And so people, you have to plant a garden. You do that, Mother Nature will feed you. And what I'm seeing looking ahead is that there is like a gardening wave. People can't get seeds next spring. So knowing how to collect seeds, knowing that's a big deal right there. Some crops like cabbage, let's see, a lot of the cole crops, you plant them and then you don't pick them. So you watch them grow and go to seed, but they don't produce their seed until the second year. So cabbage, you need 2 years to, plant some cabbage to eat and some to, to grow for seed. Same kohlrabi, kale, all those. Kale actually makes seed the first year, but beets, they have, you grow the beet and then the next year it produces seed. So you leave some beets in the ground. Carrots, the same thing.
Spinach does seeds that first year too.
Spinach will produce the first year, pretty much. So your struggle is if you put seed in the ground in the garden outside, rabbits and critters who scavenge heavily in the winter. 1 year I saved a whole row of carrots for carrot seed the next year. And when I went out in the spring, I had a whole row of perfectly carrot-shaped holes. And the rabbits had gotten every bit of those carrots, and deer, same thing.
You got a visit from Bugs Bunny there in your your garden.
Yeah. So,
well, let me show this one. This is a little greenhouse I put together. Is it 2 years ago now with the kids as an experiment to teach them about some of these plants. So most of the stuff here, there's cucumbers, tomatoes on the bottom rows there, and peppers. But most of the racks on top are all different species of lettuce, spinach, and then the red row on top is the strawberries, and we have different considerations. So I do start inside the house with the lights and then eventually bring them outside. But anyways, these are things that people can do to empower themselves. They call them those little victory gardens. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as this, but you can grow.
You put something in the ground. There are tables that say if you have a 50-foot row, then you're going to get so many bushels or pounds, etc. There are tables you can judge. Mother Nature, I think we have 6 cucumber plants. I have been eating cucumbers for the last 2 weeks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we're still and zucchini. We only have 3 zucchini plants, and I have a ton of zucchini. Lettuce will take about 54 days. Green beans, about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just plant something. It'll
Yeah.
grow.
Let me show you that second row here. I had originally started with just one row, and I realized that if I adjusted my shelves perfectly, the way the sun is coming in, I could do another row in front and still have enough sun for the row in the back. And this is like, I don't have a picture right now of how green this was, but by the end of it, I mean, oh my God, it was so amazing. And fun, really, really fun. Again,
It is.
just
I
stuff you
agree.
can do with the kids. And that
Yeah.
feeling of having fresh food also available is amazing. And I'm wondering now, if you say September, like for a lot of people here at least, it's starting to be late in the season to plant anything for them. So that means they're going to have a long, harsh winter, especially with the politicians that we have now who are, I don't know, just bumbling idiot and completely messing up everything. So, yeah.
Well, if you plant something in a greenhouse, I have a big greenhouse. Right now,
Yeah.
nothing is planted. You don't have anything in the greenhouse in the summer because it's too hot.
Mhm.
But in the long and the short of it, you can have a greenhouse within a greenhouse, and you can grow a lot.
Yeah.
One light bulb, stuck on the end of a cord. Just put that in among your plants. Watch out, it'll burn the plants, but it'll provide enough heat that stuff does not, it doesn't freeze. You
Yeah.
can get food all winter long. And
Let's get back.
if you organize for that, like you organized for it,
Mhm.
you will have a steady supply, continuous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few people are asking what else I did. So I did, okay, let me see if I can bring this picture. I'll see here too. I started with basically an outside little patch garden. This was a new property. And did that work? Hold on, let me see if I can bring this up for you guys. Wait, why not copy? Here. What's going on? Hold on. There you go. Okay. So like you, I have a lot of animals that roam. And so everything that was here was problematic here. The potatoes eventually were left alone here. The onions, I could do that outside here. And then I put most of the greens inside the greenhouse. And I had my strawberries, raspberries along 2 of the walls here where they were growing really fine. So that was just the beginning of it. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And it was just like a really fun project to do with the kids. Again, I wish nothing but the best for you guys. If you're interested in doing this, it's easy. I started this also, again, with almost no experience, and just wanting to do something for myself. And I found out I had a lot of time and a lot of fun doing it too. It was what's the word?
Yeah. So I think the question, that we're seeing here, the question that I have asked is, how do we create a new food supply? I see that how it takes shape. It does take a little bit of time. But wow, it's a total change from what we've had. So that's something that I'm gonna say something, you guys. I had supper tonight in the blueberry patch. I just stood there and picked off of 2 bushes, the front side of 2 bushes, didn't even begin to put a dent in the number of blueberries, and I was full. And on my way back in, I ate a few mulberries right off the tree. So that's your food system. If you set it up and you start taking care of what Mother Nature will provide, it's amazing. We'll be drowning in food.
Yeah.
So,
well, that was my point there too. We produced so much, we were giving it to 10 neighbors around us, and still we couldn't keep up. So if everybody starts taking control of their own food production, or at least a percentage of it, it goes a really long way. Penny, I wanted to go back to this idea of the CME here. What was interesting, I had Dick Allgaier on the show just last week. Yeah, I think it was last week, July 11th. And he was talking about, well, the slide was the end here. We're at the end stage here of this financial system. That's the conversation we went into. But he shared the snippets of a remote viewing that he and his team did, which at the time they didn't know what the target was. They're always assigned these blind targets. They did a remote viewing, they take notes, they share the notes, and eventually they're told what they were actually looking at. And what he shared with us, let me bring that up here, and it relates to your conversation here, was this slide here. He's talking about guys in boardrooms. They're playing the blame game. Whose fault is it? Shock, disbelief, recriminations. No one's taking responsibility. What's going to happen with the stakeholders? Where's the effing golden parachutes? Basically, a huge disaster, a financial disaster, where people were just in shock and disbelief that at the corporate level here, even the people who thought were playing this game and where the high level is this game realized that there was nothing there for them. They were holding a blank check, basically, when something happened here. And it was later revealed on the crypto viewing Patreon, that's patreon.com/crypto viewing, that target was the CME. So when you just said that, I'm like, whoa, these guys were forecasting this too. And they have a date for that. We didn't talk about this on the show because it hadn't been produced yet or released yet from the crypto viewing team. But if you guys are interested in that, go check it out. Cliff,
is it released already?
Yes, I think the video was released a couple of days after Dick was on my show, so he wasn't at liberty to share all the data yet, seeing as the video hadn't been released. But it is now. If you guys want to go check it out on their Patreon. So yeah, that's really interesting. So the commodities things you just explained, the energy crisis. The energy crisis also, to me, brings the physical metals back into play, because we have a de facto gold standard now with that big R asking to be paid with gold-backed currency. The minute somebody capitulates to that, it's an admission here that we are on now a gold standard, and that the old petrodollar standard is in fact dead. It's been dead for a year, by the way. Russia did sign an agreement with Saudi Arabia, and none of the news items really talked about this. So similar to what you're saying now, the corpse maybe died in May, but we're only going to have the funeral here in August or September. We're getting very close to all of this colliding at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you want to take more questions from the audience? Do you have any more things that you want to share before we go? How do you want to take the last 5 minutes?
I think that's mostly it. Think about your food. Think about your belly.
Mm-hmm. Well, thinking about the food, our politicians here in Canada are taking this very seriously. They've just created the world's largest $8.5 million plant here to produce bugs for food production. So this is not Brenyan. This is it was actually in the news there a couple of weeks ago. Agriculture Canada is behind some of this as well. So okay. So guys, that's one of the future possibilities. If you don't want that, maybe thinking about having your own garden here at some point makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. I have, there's a joke in my family about I've only seen like 10 movies in my whole life. But when my brother-in-law was here visiting last month, I think maybe I mentioned on the show that I had been to the movies, and I saw, I forget, Jurassic something or other. The latest.
Oh, the last Jurassic Park there?
Jurassic World.
Yeah, Jurassic World.
Whatever. I remember as I was sitting there in the theater thinking, who would be growing bugs and genetically modifying them so that this is the theme in the Jurassic Jurassic World, that bugs have been genetically modified so that they would destroy everybody's crop who was not part of the approved controller crop.
Right.
And that got out of hand, and and etc. But they had these labs full of bugs, and when you were just showing about the the crickets, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're doing something like that. I will mention that when I was
can I ask you a question on that? Hold that thought. I want to ask you a question on that, because a few of us were thinking about this very deeply also. And we were wondering if perhaps the creation, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to word this.
How to say it.
All right. So going back to the theme that you just described as in the movie, and the reason described in the movie as to why they're doing this, it's to control the crops and all that. Is
Yeah.
it possible also that there was another agenda in mind? For example, if you watch the Star Trek movies, the Borg, they have to implant you with those nanobots in order to assimilate you. And I was thinking out loud the other day, are they trying to make us eat all of these bugs also so that we're closer, when they say you are what you eat, closer to that genetic framework so that maybe the bug can control us a little bit better?
Yeah, you are what you eat. It basically comes down to that. The kind of nutrition you get affects you deeply. Every single food form has its own genetic frequency set, but lattice structure, and therefore chemical structure. And that we are not meant to eat bugs. We can get by for a short time, but bugs are for birds. That's their food. That's so important for them. So there's got to be well, one of the things that I have seen is that the big attempt to put this whole business of insect protein out there is because it can be controlled in such a way that they can have total control over one aspect of the nutritional spectrum: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Insects don't have much fat, but they have a lot of protein. And that's what they want, the money from that. Farmers, you don't, a lot of people don't know that back in the 40s and 50s, the government stepped in and said farmers had to sell their stuff to this middleman, and that they were going to get X amount of dollars. And there was this whole argument over parity, and farmers got screwed. Basically, they get whatever, they can't name their price. They promise their crop to somebody, and then that person sets the price and makes all the money. The farmer is extremely limited. And farming has some similarities to publishing. In the old publishing world, if you wrote a book and you sold it to somebody, they would say, okay, this book is worth $20. Let's use that as a round number. 25% would go to the publisher, 25% would go to the printer, 25% would go to the bookstore, and 25% to the warehouse. And the author might get 5-7%, maybe. And so the person who wrote the book had no control over it and had almost no profit from it. Everybody else got all the big profit. Well, that same model is used in farming. The farmer sells what he's got, and everybody takes that, and they do value-added activities to it, and they make a whole lot of money. And the farmer is doing all the work and getting, I won't say what we used to say on the farm. Gets the hind so-and-so.
Or the hard end of the stick.
Well, that's a nice way of saying it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let me ask you a question about China for a second. I wanted to share this last picture, but this is not even as bad as it got. It got a lot worse in the sense that just teeming with life. It's just, I couldn't stop it or eat it fast enough or trim it back fast enough. Yeah. It wants to grow, guys. Yeah. Okay. A question from China here. I was looking at another screen. Let me see if I can bring that back up for you guys. There's been a bank runs here for the last couple of weeks. Not really advertised here in North American news.
I know.
But now they're talking about, I saw this on Zero Hedge the other day, China on the verge of violent debt jubilee as thousands of disgruntled homeowners refuse to pay their mortgage now because, of course, they're trying to get their money in the bank. The banks are closed, and they're saying, well, we're not paying our mortgage on top of the fact that you're not giving us our money. How do you see that tying in perhaps to the sequences of events here that gets us to the hard stop? And are we going to see that type of situation here too if the banks take holidays here in North America? where we see a similar situation with people writing about this. What have you
Yeah.
seen when you look?
Actually, that whole problem started in April. People, now it's like everybody has stopped paying their mortgage. Like, okay, we're not doing this. Evergrande is bankrupt. So, I think as I've looked at the Big C over there, a couple times I've thought, I've seen them numerous times having this absolute revolution, just waves of revolution move across the country. And then you look at the news and it's like, well, it looks like it's all okay. Everything's all right. But I've seen a couple of videos in the last month or 6 weeks that show riots happening there. Not as much as what's happening in Europe, but a lot. Like I forget, it's a couple a month. It's more than 100. I wasn't sure if it was 100 a year or 100 a month or whatever, but it was this number of 100 revolts and protests and what I had thought when I first heard the Evergrande thing was that's going to take it down. And then it looked like it got propped up some more and it glossed over. And I thought, no. But then the other day when I heard that people had just stopped paying their mortgage, quit. It's like, no, they're not going to finish building our houses. We're not paying the mortgage. And the whole thing is ready to implode. There may be some cascading effects there. I don't know that the CCP will be able to stop that. What I saw was a purge. Didn't like that. I hope that's not going to be the case. But there's some uproar, a lot of uproar in China.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and let's tie in in the possibility that we're going to see things here like that. A lot of people are asking, okay, well, what do I do with my money in the bank now? And of course, this is not financial advice. We're having a conversation. We're sharing ideas with each other. So please don't take anything we say as financial advice. We're just having conversations here. But a lot of people will say, well, do I need to get more food right now? Depending, of course, on how much you have in the bank. Do I take that out in cash, given the hyperinflation, the threat of changing over to a new currency, as we're seeing now, the CBDCs being announced by the Bank of International Settlements. Do we put that in gold and silver? Do we put that in crypto? Right now, we're seeing huge fluctuations in cryptos and a lot of exchanges going down, going bankrupt, and people losing their shirt there in cryptos because they left their cryptos in an exchange and not in their wallet, as Jason and Ford told them to. But how would you play that game right now? Would you do the metals right now? Would you still look at cryptos? Let's say the person has their food. Okay, they've been listening to you for a while. They have their food stores. They have their gardening set up. But they're looking at maybe the retirement plans and stuff like that, and they're thinking, "Ooh, I don't think that's going to survive this transition. What do I do with it now?" What would you do, Penny?
Well, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What I've kind of come to is some metals have to have some metals, some cryptos, some cash, and some bank accounts. And so I divvied out what little bit of money I have over several bank accounts, like 4 different accounts. And so I'm way under the 150,000 guaranteed by the banks. I don't think they're going to be able to pay out anything. But, what I have, I'm trying to, at this point, look at, okay, what do I need? What do I need to be more self-sufficient? So I'm thinking I'm going to buy a few things here over the next month that are somewhat big ticket items and have those on hand while I can still get them. So, so that's one thing. The second thing is I'm going to take some more out, cash out and stash it in various places. And the ticket, here's the issue. Will I be able to get that cash back into the bank
Yeah.
And here's the big kicker on putting that cash into the bank. If you have a large sum and you're trying to put that in, and a large sum is anything over $5,000, then the bank can say that might be terrorist money. We
Yeah.
need to confiscate that. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to get any large amounts back in. And what I see is that they're trying to make sure that there are no alternatives for financial saving yourself financially other than the
Mhm.
central bank digital currencies. And speaking
Mhm.
of digital currencies, they look like they're going to go up a little bit, and
Mhm.
then they're going to go down a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, somebody was saying that too. Crypto Viewing was saying that too, that they're going to
oh,
attempt to do a big, or the bad guys. So just call them for the bad guys here for a
yeah.
minute. They might attempt a big run up again, just to do a big fleecing of those people really quickly, like
Oh,
another pump and dump. Sorry, I'm breaking. I'm holding my neck. My neck is cramping again. They would do this pump and dump again, and then right after that, introduce their CBDC. But apparently, they'd like to do another run just before they do that. So again, buyer
okay.
beware, guys. If you're in the market here in this
Yeah.
situation, really weird times. Going back to the money thing, to me, having $5,000 or $10,000 on the side, I don't worry too much about putting it back into the system, because if you look at the
Okay.
web data and what seems to be happening now, the system won't be there in a couple of months. So we're going to be transacting more maybe between person to person than through these
Well,
banks here, at least for a period of time. So
okay, but if you want to get it back into a central bank digital currency, let's say you want to put cash in and say, okay, I have this much cash, give me central bank digital currencies, then
mhm.
they can question that's happening. That's already happening. They're saying, no, you
That's
can't
true.
put that money in.
Yeah. That's true. That's one of the dilemmas. As you're saying, they're trying to prevent you from getting out of their system of control,
Yeah.
which again brings you back to physical gold and silver, which has been money all this time. But still now, like the story of your daughter trying to buy a house and saying, hey, I have a few bars of silver, I have a little bit of cash, and the bank said no to both. Now, even that, I don't know that that would persist very long, because for some banks who are going to have liquidity issues, they might say, you know what, in these particular times, yes, 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 we'll take your silver and your gold.
Give me. We'll take it.
Right. I'm sure the government will take your gold and silver if you owe back taxes to them too. They'll be
Oh, yeah.
not shy to take that from you. So who knows? But yeah, wow.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is a lot of people are going to lose a lot. And that's okay. You'll still be
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah,
We have each other.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, that's the big thing there. Anyways, guys, let me put up this one. Andy just sent me this before the show. These are the new discounts for the Beyond Mystic audience. This week, the 1 ounce silver Krugerrands at $4.95 over spot. Really cool price there. Also, some platinum available there. And if you're on the Canadian side of the equation, you can check out mfbullion.ca, the affiliate program there. And here this week, we have the 1 ounce St. Helena's at $6.79 over spot Canadian. That might look like a lot, but compared to the competitors here in Canada, that's still very cheap. So guys, do go check it out if you're still in need to put metal, because here's the thing, we're getting to that point where a lot of these dealers will soon not have physical silver to give you.
yeah.
Andy was just talking about a couple of weeks ago, he had the biggest order of his career and of his dad's career, I think combined, is what he said. This was a billionaire who almost cleaned them out. And he says, how many of those does it take
Yeah.
to clean out your local coin shop? And then there's nothing for everybody else. When we all panic, we realize that, as you said, we get to this hard stop and the banks are not there, and you haven't prepared already to take your money out of the system. Sooner might be better than later. Again, not financial advice, because there's some people that are saying silver might go down even more here in this volatility, but will you be able to buy it at that price? So again, these are all questions you guys need to ask for yourselves and really pay attention. Look at these scenarios, play the scenarios out. And it doesn't mean you're creating that reality. It means you're creating solutions to not hit that reality for you. There's a big difference there. And I hope people see the nuance there. Penny, we're an hour 10 into it. Is there
Yeah.
anything else
And
you want to share?
I think we should go so you can go do something with your neck.
Right. Well, you and I also have a conference call after this. We're talking about, of course, the
That's
Beyond Mystic Academy. Folks, check it out at beyondmystic.academy. This is our new website. We have a lot of new offerings there and more amazing courses coming up here down the line. We're very excited about that. And speaking of that, Julie just sent me something also. Let me see if I can find that slide. It was here somewhere. We're going to be doing this amazing tarot numerology workshop. So we did a live episode last week where we showed how to do the numerology using tarot to find your soul essence and your life mission. But that episode was removed. So a lot of people had a lot of questions. They were really interested about the topic. And of course, for some reason, we can't put that here. Unbeknownst to me, at any rate, we'll be putting it on the Academy here. I believe next week is when my guests there are going to be putting that together for you guys. So stay tuned. I will be posting that for you soon. In the meantime, of course, you can find the amazing Penny Kelly here at pennykelly.com. Anything coming up here in terms of retreat, workshops, books, any updates you want to give the audience, Penny?
Yeah, I'll just say that we had a meeting today, lasted almost 3 hours, and we're moving forward with our new platform. And it looks like it's going to be real here pretty soon. And that ties right in with the book, The Revival, How to Build a New World. What questions do you have to ask? What do you have to consider? How do you think about it? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's coming, it's coming.
There's a lot to do when you run a YouTube channel and courses. I totally understand, Penny. It's a lot more work than maybe some people realize. So yes, please be patient, folks. In the meantime, you can find Penny's work here on YouTube, where she shares a lot of her amazing content. That's Penny Kelly. The links are in the description box below. And finally, if you want to support Penny also, you can do so here at patreon.com/Penny Kelly. What's going on here on the Patreon as of late? Where would you guide the audience to, Penny?
I think probably the middle, the high beta. We put stuff out regularly there. There's a lot of medical information about how to heal yourself on the tea and consciousness. The tea and consciousness has really become, instead of a conversation about consciousness, it's about how do I get healthy so I can have consciousness. So lots and lots of natural medicine alternatives and that are available every week. So there's that. And then conversations with Daphne and I, people writing questions. I try to answer those in a little video. So yeah, it's busy. It's very busy.
Very good. So folks,
once a month.
What's that again?
We do a live stream once a month for our Patreon people.
Okay, very good. So folks, Penny Kelly is on the screen now. Of course, that's Daphne paying attention here and saying thank you to everyone. And yes, thank you everyone for joining us here on this first simulcast edition of the Break in the Clouds with Penny Kelly. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe here at Penny Kelly on YouTube. And if you're on Penny Kelly's website, please come on over also here and join us here at the Jean-Claude BeyondMystic 3 backup channel here on YouTube and peruse some of our amazing videos coming up. I believe still tomorrow night or Thursday night. Joe has to move this around, so I'm not sure what he told me. But we're going to be doing a very special wacky woo here also. So it might be pushed to Friday. I'm not sure what he said yet. So just stay tuned in the next day or two. I will be repopulating this schedule here for all of the upcoming live streams. I love you guys. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Hasta pronto.